Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're so glad that you're here with us to enjoy some delicious coffee from Chica Bean this morning. We have the wonderful Abby Grotman here, who is the co-owner of Chica Bean Coffee, and we want to extend her a warm welcome here to Christ the King Church. And Abby, just take over. Let us know a little bit more about Chica Bean, what Chica Bean's about, and then lead us through a coffee tasting.
Yeah. Pues, first things first, buenos días. Buenos días. Good morning. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to share this space and share this conversation. I am a big old coffee nerd, so I very much appreciate getting all hot and nerdy about coffee with y'all. And also being able to share what I do and what my company does in various communities in Guatemala. I'm still going to be brewing and talking a little bit, but just to kind of start out, who here considers themselves like a coffee lover? All right, so we got most people are pretty good. Who here would consider themselves knowledgeable of coffee? More or less. Okay, right on. What kind of plant is coffee? The tree. What kind of food would it be classified as? Berry. A berry. Exactly. Well, fruit. It is a fruit. So that is step one, basic information that I think everybody should have about coffee, because we call it coffee bean, but it's not really a bean, it's a seed. And whenever we start to make that conceptual difference between how we treat fruit and how we treat beans, that's very different. And that changes the requirements of how we're manipulating it, what the logistics look like, and that care that we give it. So number one, it is a fruit, super important. So right on, very impressed that y'all got that, because I don't get that even in Guatemala where it grows. Most people will say, it's a bean. So right on. I am lucky enough to be a co-owner of a little company based out of Guatemala that's called Chica Bean. Any guesses as to why that is our company name? Women producers. Yeah, Chica, women, female, bean. I know it should be seed, but nobody would get that, so it's marketing wise, I'm stuck with bean. Chica bean, exactly. But it's not just female produced. We are female led, female powered from the seed all the way to the cup. And so we work with smallholder female producers specifically. We were having a lovely conversation about that. What does smallholder mean? Especially thinking about agriculture in the United States. What's small? Way smaller than anything you find here. This is the women we work with in general have on average 3 hectareas, which does not translate very well to any sort of measurement we have here in the States, but it's small. And in general, they are also not just one piece of land, but various pieces of land that kind of combine to be more or less 3 hectares. That is very important because in general, those smallholder producers are completely lost in the supply chain. They don't have the necessary capital to process any farther, so most of the time they are just harvesting their cherries and selling it to a coyote or a middleman, or maybe if they're lucky and their area has a cooperative that can process it farther. And the more you process it, the closer to the final consumer you get, so the more money you get. That basically then that's saying that these women are typically the end of the supply chain. They are the first ones to handle risk and the last ones to get paid. And when they do get paid, it's very small. So we work with smallholder female producers But technically as Chica Bean, what we do is actually we roast coffee. So we are a roasting company based in Oregon. That means, okay, we are based from where the coffee comes from. And that's really different because we were also having a conversation about this a little bit before. Bummer about coffee, it would not exist without colonialism or slavery. And as a colonialist crop, that means it's exploitative. It's exploitative and extractive. So it is grown in a country that is seen as third world, and then brought to a stable form, which is that dry form, where it can be consolidated and extracted, brought to a country where it can be transformed into a usable product. Let's say like Europe, the United States, Canada, and that's the roasting process. And all of that value that happens from roasting, transforming it to that final product, stays in the consuming country. That value doesn't pop back. And what do I mean by value? Let's say the C price, because coffee generally is traded on the C price, the commodity price. Last week, I haven't checked it this week. Last week, it was at $1.65 per pound of green bean, so that dried bean, $1.65 per pound of that. You go to a roaster, how much are you paying for a pound of roasted specialty coffee?
10, 11, $12, and maybe more.
It's only one and
It depends.
It depends.
But you're almost always paying 10 or $11.
That's a big jump. Yep, that's a big jump. Add on that specialty, so we're talking about quality. And minimum, it'll be $15 to $25 easy. That's a big jump. And so what we do at Chica Bean is we keep that value in the country and the community of origin. Because of that, so we're maintaining 95% of, let's say one of our basic bags is $14. We're maintaining 95% of that $14 in Guatemala. Therefore, we pay our producers way higher, way higher than anybody else that I've met down there. And we're also generating jobs that are not traditionally found in Guatemala. And again, since we're working with female producers, we decided we should probably work with a female roaster and female baristas. And might as well do female administrators. So when we decided this was gonna be our model, we were looking for a female roaster in Guatemala, but again, roasting is not traditionally done, at least on a commercial scale, not traditionally done in Guatemala. So it was hard, we were hard pressed to find a roaster in the first place, let alone a female roaster, which in the industry as a whole, in the world industry, roasting is the most male dominated aspect. It's like the mechanics of the roast or of the coffee world. Almost always they're male. So it's just realistically, it was impossible to find a female roaster. So we decided to make one. Quite literally, as we also made our machine, we worked with a local iron maker and designed a roasting machine. And then we decided to talk to my business partner's nanny, and who was very good at the kitchen. So we just asked Evelyn, would you like to learn how to roast coffee? And we're so glad that she said yes. We were able to get her into various training programs where her very first mentor was actually a world champion cupper. Cupper is kind of like, cupping or like tasting wine.
Mhm.
Cupping is the coffee version of that. And in Guatemala, we're lucky enough to have the 2012 world champion cupper. And that was Evelyn's very first mentor. So she went from uneducated nanny to world level in a matter of years. And now we are 5 years in. Evelyn started roasting 6 years ago, and she is Guatemala's very first female roast master, which we are so proud of her. Last year, she even decided to hop in on a roasting competition, which if you knew Evelyn 6 years ago, it was hard pressed to get her to say a sentence to you, a joke, and for her to voluntarily sign up for a world, it was a global roasting competition. That's pretty cool. It was a very heartwarming experience to watch. So beyond Evelyn, we also have baristas. And again, it's not particularly easy to find qualified baristas in Guatemala, so we made them. Our very first Chica bean barista was our part-time cleaning lady when we first started. And we asked if she would like to learn how to be a barista. And so she went from having what is considered a no-skill job to being a highly technical barista. She hadn't finished 6th grade, so I think she had a 4th grade education level. Our concept is about working with the skills the community has, working with the women who are already there, who are pillars of the culture, and providing professional opportunities for them so that they can grow, and as they grow, they continue to support their community. So that's a little bit of what we do here at Chica Bean. Also, we work as a roaster, based in Guatemala. We work the same as a roaster here in the United States. Basically, we get orders in on our website. We roast on Mondays. UPS comes to pick them up from our roastery on Tuesdays. If it's a perfect shipment, they export on Wednesday, and if it's a perfect shipment, it will be delivered to your doorstep anywhere in the United States on Thursday or Friday. Which is not bad, especially considering in Guatemala, we don't even have a mailing system. So, we're pretty proud of that. We call those our magical logistics. Yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Well, yeah, I mentioned baristas now. There's gotta be a part of your business that I didn't catch on to. If you've got baristas, so what, they have to be working in some sort of a retail establishment.
Yeah.
So
Part of our model is we do have a coffee shop. So it's right next to our roaster, and the idea with that is
do you have one, or do you have a bunch of them, or what?
we just have one. We do have quite a few customers in Guatemala, so other coffee shops, but we're not technically, we're just providers.
Sure.
But one of our concepts, again, because if you talk to a coffee producer, 95% of coffee producers have never tasted their coffee.
Right.
Again, the coffee industry, based off of colonial infrastructure, is actually still traditionally, or no, like largely run with that colonial infrastructure. That exploited model is how coffee, I would say like 80% of coffee still works like that. And so part of our model, since we knew we were going to be exporting, because the specialty market already exists here, we didn't have to create a new market.
Sure.
But we also wanted to be sharing, especially the high quality coffee, with the people who create it. We wanted to make sure that Guatemalans have access to that good coffee. And so we did open a coffee shop. Our prices are also very competitive in Guatemala. Our ideas was that, again, we didn't want to have the coffee there, but then charge $20 for a bag of coffee whenever realistically most Guatemalans cannot afford that.
So how many baristas do you employ?
Right now, we have 3. Yeah.
So you have one coffee shop.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, yes, we have 3 baristas, but they are also trained in chefs or as cooks as well.
Okay.
Because everyone needs multiple skills.
Well, I mean, people drink coffee in Guatemala, okay? I mean, it's not that nobody has been drinking coffee there, but the people who produce it aren't necessarily drinking it, depending upon probably some other circumstances, but it may not be.
Can y'all guess what kind of coffee they generally drink in Guatemala?
What it is. What it is.
I would say even worse at filters.
That's what gets left.
Instant.
Boy,
is that is a very typical, if you go to someone's house, they will pull out that little jar of granulated Nescafe.
that, in Mexico, we grew up with Nescafe.
As well.
Yeah.
Right, because again, the good stuff is exported.
So, do you have multiple varieties of coffee plants? And how do the Guatemalan plants differ from Sumatra or Indonesia or other places that grow coffee?
This is a technical question, I love this. Yes, so we were actually just talking about that as well. Generally, coffee has three main branches. There's what's called Arabica, Robusta, and then a wild variety of coffee. Arabica is grown in high altitudes and is against plagues or fungi attacks, but it is a very bitter beet. And so a lot of, and they're bigger and it has 2.5 times the caffeine as Arabica. You usually like in Italy, and in Europe in general, because a lot of coffee that comes from Africa is Robusta. So you find a lot of Robusta in like Italian espresso blends. They'll do a little bit of Arabica and a little bit of Robusta, and Robusta is what like really gives that espresso punch. All coffee that comes from Guatemala, or like 98% is Arabica. How many of y'all have been to Guatemala? All right, we've got some of it. What was the landscape like?
Like there was a big volcano and,
Yeah. Lots of volcanoes.
okay,
Lots of volcanoes. Lots
it was
and
years ago.
lots of this. A drive that Google Maps tells you will be, let's say like 20 kilometers will take you 3 hours because of that landscape. It is very intense, and it's almost all high altitude. So that's great for that Arabica. And within Arabica, you also have a lot of sub-varieties. So you have things like Caturra, Catuai, Geisha, if y'all are mingle in a coffee shop world. You'll probably hear the term Geisha, which is a kind of frou-frou variety right now. It's winning a lot of competitions. There's just, I would say, hundreds of those sub-varieties of Arabica. But if you just know those two, that's a pretty easy one. Our producers, for the most part, so we work with a group of women, for the most part, also we do, as we're growing, we are growing our network of women as well, producers as well. But most of them work in a department called Jalapa, and it is kind of a forgotten area. You don't get tourism there. It's kind of like the wild east of Guate. And they use varieties that are called Catora, Catuai, and Pachicolis, which is a really cool one because you can only find it in all of the world. You can only find it in their community. So that's very beautiful. And what they also do is they're in charge of the processing. So they'll harvest, process it, is basically getting that fruit into that stable form, so that dried form. There are three main ways. I should have read those. Next time I'm gonna bring my demonstrative jars full of what a wash process looks like compared to a honey and natural. But basically, you have a wash, you harvest, you depulp. That means the pulp goes this way, the seeds goes this way. You fill the seed bucket up with water, where a wonderful process of fermentation happens. And it eats away all of the sugary, slimy mucilage that stays, it's like nectar that stays on the seeds. And once there's no more mucilage, you put it out to dry. It's called wash because it has a nap. That's washed, and 80% of the world's coffee is washed. That is gonna produce the flavors that you recognize as being coffee. Honey is harvested, depulped, and then you take those seeds with that sugary mucilage nectar and you put it to dry. And so all of that sugar gets absorbed into the seeds, and it usually creates a super cup. Natural process is you harvest those ripe seeds or fruits and you put it out to dry. with the fruit, with the pulp, everything on it. So those seeds are absorbing that fruity flavor, which is a lot of fun. And actually, that's one of the coffees that we will be trying, is that natural process, because it is so unique. So the women are in charge of doing that. From there, it comes to us at Chica Bean, where we decide the roast profile. In general, you have a spectrum of roast from lighter to darker. Middle, as a specialty coffee company, we don't do very dark coffee. So I know we're talking about like Starbucks tends to go with a very, very dark roast. So if you see any oils on that, that is a very, very dark roast. And we don't do that because we want to highlight the natural qualities of the seed diet, of all of the work that the women have put into this. So, we do a medium, and then our dark is, a lot of people might call it, it tastes dark, but it doesn't look dark. And that's a skill that Evelyn, our roaster, has developed, in her process of dancing with the machine.
So the difference between the light and dark roast, is that a function of temperature, time, both?
Yes, and air flow. Temperature, time, and air flow. So, when at the time that you are adding the certain bursts of air, if you are opening the airflow, or if you're closing it, so then more of the smoke stays in, that completely, not only the flavor, but also the body, which is the, like the texture that is in your mouth whenever you're drinking it. So, we are trying pour over coffee. So it's drip that goes through a good filter. If you try this coffee and then try the coffee out there, which is made with a percolator, you'll notice that not only are the tastes different, but that texture is different. And a way you can think about that is like the difference between drinking, you ever make hot, you make hot cocoa, even just that powdered hot cocoa. Sometimes you make it with water, and sometimes you make it with milk. And it's a difference. There's a big difference in the way that feels in your mouth, even though it's still hot chocolate. So that's what we call body. And this method that I'm brewing is gonna yield a little bit of a lighter body. So especially for y'all who enjoy using like your cup of mud in the morning, this might be more of an afternoon coffee. Because of the way that I'm brewing it. That's just enough. Any questions?
Do y'all own any of the acreage, or is it all being purchased from producers? And I remember learning something from David, how it was helping the orphanage and school. So what's that connection?
Oh, absolutely. We are technically the roaster. We don't produce coffee. That being said, our very first producer was my business partner's mom. And her name is Doña Maritza, and she plays an important role in the foundation of Chica Bean. Really, Chica Bean exists as it was an answer to how to help her make ends meet on her own. And unfortunately, this past year, she had a diagnosis of breast cancer. And luckily she was able to beat it throughout the year, but she had her last treatment right before harvest started. And so there was just no way that she was gonna be able to get back to her farm and do the work. And so actually my business partner was able to go and do that work. So while it's not technically Chica Bean, again, we are very involved in their lives. And so we've worked on bringing them various trainings and access to tools so that they're able to do that processing. But aside from this past year, because of that circumstance, we do not process. We don't work on the farms, we just work on the roasting. And then we also connect them with training. So constant ways of how to improve their agricultural practices. And we're specifically focusing on regenerative agriculture right now. and how they can ensure that their productions are not only yielding super high quality coffee, but also coffee that continues to support the longevity of their land. With the Hope Academy girls, this is one of my favorite things that we do, and one of my favorite parts of our job. It came about, really as, again, a consequence of COVID, as so many, things do. And, since we were already shipping to the United States, so we already had this focus of doing the entire value chain, having our hands in everything. And a conversation with David one day, whenever he was talking about how in Guatemala, 6th graders have this really cool sounding curriculum requirement, which is, production and development. Like, as a 6th grader, that sounds like having something like that, the possibility is of really creating a foundation on how to study well, how to be productive, how to contribute and design things. It sounds awesome. However, the reality usually ends up in some boring thing where the students are just sitting in class and like reading theory. And so we thought, what if we could take that production and development and turn it into an internship? And that's what we did. So the 6th grade girls come in once every month. Well, it started out with the 6th grade girls. Now we've actually adapted it to be 5th and 6th grade, and it's a 2-year program. And basically it's designed that the girls come in once a month and learn everything about coffee. So they learn about the production side, they learn about agriculture, they learn about fermentation, they learn about roasting, they learn about storage and degasification. Again, the school is STEAM focused. So we get down and dirty with that science. We let them have a bag and we watch it explode as the freshly roasted beans emit their gas, so degasify. Then we talk about extraction and the brewing side of things, and talk about all of this really exciting, the science and stuff that goes behind coffee. And then we go to the business side. And so that the girls learn about marketing, they learn about brand development, they learn about storytelling and feedback, customer feedback, developing their own business. And at the end, they actually have a bag of coffee with a label, a brand that they themselves have designed. And then we put it to sell, and all of the proceeds from that year go to further these 6th graders girls' education. So it's a way where it's not just they're coming to a classroom and learning or listening, but they're really putting their hands in, and they are creating this. And we understand that most of these girls are not going to end up in coffee. It is not, the idea is not that they become coffee professionals, but that they develop the skills necessary so that whatever they want to become, they're able to tell their story. They're able to push themselves. They're able to talk about value beyond finances. But what is it that my service is bringing to you, and why I'm the right person to do it? And so starting them young as little entrepreneurs, but I know I never got that kind of experience as a young person. I never got to do that. And so it's an honor to be able to work alongside these girls, alongside my team also, because I'm only in charge of some things. Evelyn is in charge of being the teacher of the roasting side. Our other Evelyn, the barista Evelyn, is in charge of teaching them the barista skills. Luis is in charge of teaching them about logistics. And so it's an opportunity that I'm also seeing my team of women from the same community that these girls are from rise up and be teachers for the next generation. So super, yeah, that's just a little bit of what we do, but it's really cool.
How much of your product is sold in the country versus exported here?
70% is exported or brought here, and then 30% is stays in Guatemala.
Just from a $30 perspective, what is the cost of getting certified in order to do the process in Chica?
Really not that bad, actually, because we just had to have the FDA registration.
Right?
And that's also where, realistically, our company exists because of privilege. I mean, the fact that I'm from the United States and one of my business partners is also from the United States means that we have a US bank account. And that is really why our model is so innovative and didn't exist before, because there is no e-commerce in Guatemala, so you cannot have a PayPal account, if you do not, or if you have a Guatemalan bank account. So the fact that we have a US bank account, really opened up the possibilities. And then that also made us so we're our own importer. We are the Chica Bean Guatemala exporter, Chica Bean LLC importer. And so we have complete control of the product from beginning to end. But yeah, really getting the FDA wasn't bad. As a social enterprise, we also get a lot of help, so like consultancies. And that's how we were really able to get connected with the FDA, ensuring that our labels meet all requirements. Yeah, being a social enterprise, beyond being the right thing to do has also really helped us as a business. Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking about is the welcome to dreams for funding from other perspectives is that it has the tendency to keep not just profits in Guatemala, but the people. So that if you're self-sufficient and support a family, you're not inclined to leave. Do you have any statistics about any exodus, especially of the young people from the community?
Absolutely, especially our producer community. It's heartbreaking, number one, and really, especially our producer community, because it is nothing but coffee. So where most of these women live, you go to a small city, it's more like a town, and then you go 45 minutes down a dirt, and there is nothing but coffee there. And since I've been going there, you notice, so I started going there 6 years ago, and since that happened, you notice less and less people are there. Now it's actually, a convenient thing that we're working with women, because nearly all of the women have left. So you drive down these roads and they're bare, and mainly women. And that is directly because of, realistically, again, if you're not getting paid, you don't have opportunities to support your family. And talking about that normal C price, how coffee is traded. I said that C price last week was $1.65. C price does not mean how much a producer is making. C price is the price of that coffee in the destination port. So that means there is transportation, insurance, importing, exporting, all of these fees. And there's actually a thing called the FOB black hole, which means we have no idea what goes on after that FOB, after that C price. We have no idea how that's broken down. How much money is going with the importer, how much is going with the exporter, how much is going with all those middlemen, and how many is actually going into the wallet of the women or the producers. At Chica Bean, we use what's called farm gate, and that is how much we are paying those women. And we not only, because we're based in Fortune, we have that visibility. We have that traceability. We can see exactly how much coffee we're getting from them because we're picking that up and we're giving them that check. And that's just not how coffee in most agricultural goods are. So that again, that historic exploitation, not just in coffee, in a lot of crops, but that has made it so difficult for people to make ends meet. And that right now, I know historic immigration waves have happened for things such as security, as political unrest, civil unrest. But really right now, what we're seeing is a huge exodus due to lack of economic opportunities and the ability to take care of your family. And even, I mean, really, our producers, they don't necessarily have large families. They're, Susie, who's this is Susie, has 2 daughters. All of our other younger producers don't have any children. So it's not that like, oh, they can't take care of their families because they have such big families. No, that's not even the case anymore. It's just that they can't take care of their families because the model's not made for them to make ends meet, let alone reinvest and grow. Immigration is a very tough thing, and also it has played, or it is playing a big role in coffee prices. So coffee prices have traditionally been so low because again, we're not paying for labor. It's practically free labor. So that's a big thing. We were actually paying, if we were paying a minimum wage, coffee prices would shoot up. Another aspect of it is also not based off of production costs. So coffee prices, again, are that seed price, that commodity price, which is determined by Wall Street. It's by the stock exchange. That has nothing to do with production costs or anything. So if we start looking at how much it actually costs to make coffee, it's way more. But that justice has never been there because traditionally, like the industry is not made for that. And so I think that's really important to remember, and especially as we're seeing this wave of immigration and people who just simply cannot make ends meet. Which is kind of
very recent. If you look at history in Guatemala, they actually, I'm trying to remember which president it was that allowed children in coffee picking areas to start school a month later.
Yeah.
Because coffee harvest is occurring right when the school year starts. But because people are paid so little for labor, it's just anybody from home help pick your coffee, get harvested because you get paid for whatever, for
by weight.
Right, by weight. So children were specifically given permission from the president to not go to school for the first month, so that they could help get coffee for their families. That was not that many presidents back.
No, I
I
think
think it was like three.
This is a really big challenge for them, right?
yes.
Because the description we just gave of this issue with young children on the farm.
Yeah,
Okay, that's the American South, 80 to 100 years ago.
Right.
That's that, right? And so when we finally solve that, agriculture moves somewhere else.
right, exactly.
So this is an incredible initiative, and I applaud you for it. But if you're successful, the coffee will become so expensive that the demand could go down, unless you bang on the fact that it's addictive. And eventually, these areas will have to shut down. You can't manufacture food in the 21st century front yard at the time. And so I know that what's happening, that's the reality. I understand that, and this is a fantastic idea. What is the, and you've been doing it for 5 years, right?
Mhm.
Is the idea that this could actually become a model for an entire generation or time, 30-year endeavor, or is it something that over coffee, you guys have said are going to love? If we're successful here, this can't work in the longest run. What's the insight into that issue? Because I would think these ladies that are currently doing this, if you caught them in an honest moment, they might be saying, I love that this is happening, not sure I want my daughter to do this eventually, right? I mean, that's, some of them are already.
Right, especially the small
Yeah,
businesses,
yeah,
because they don't have the volume.
yeah. So what are you seeing in places like, you know, school and other things that you guys have seen? What are you seeing in these places that are challenged right now? And how that will eventually change the longer term solution?
So I think, at least for Chica Bean, our goal is to change the industry norms. Like I said, a bag of our, let's say, medium roast on our website, if you get a subscription, it's $14. Is that expensive? for a bag of specialty coffee, again, and this is specialty, we didn't even talk about that. This is specialty coffee delivered directly to your door from Guatemala, shipping included for $14.
Shipping included?
Is that
Excellent.
Yes. We're making we're a business, we are not a nonprofit. We are a business, so we are making our margins, and we are paying our producers at least double, if not 3 times the amount that they usually get. So, but we are using a model that is different than history. We have taken that and we are changing, we have taken advantage of globalization and the logistical infrastructure that exists. We're doing something that most people told us was impossible to do. You cannot roast an organ because it will not get to me fresh. You cannot roast an organ because Guatemalans don't know how to roast specialty coffee. You cannot do this because this. And we have. Again, I am talking from a place of privilege because I'm from the United States, and therefore we were able to have a US bank account and we were able to have access to things that normal Guatemalans might not have access to. But we're breaking a tradition. And we're not accepting that the only route is the route that's existed for 200 years. And because of that, we're able to more evenly distribute that value. We also are working with our women to diversify their incomes, exactly because of that, because dependence on a single crop is never a good thing. Over that. And we're also focusing on education. So as PQB, we focus on professional opportunities for women, but we partner with Hope Academy. We actually partner with several schools in the area to provide access to education for those girls. 2 of our producers are not only coffee producers, but they're also teachers. You don't have to only be a coffee producer. Especially for women, coffee producer is just one item on their resume. Susie, who is not highly educated either, but she is not only a coffee producer, she is a mother of 2, she is a caregiver to the elderly family, she is a caregiver to the elderly in her community, she has a little store that she runs out of her house. She sends what's called arepas or snacks to the school for the children during their snack hour. And she is growing flowers. And she's a coffee. That's just one of the many things on her list. And I think regardless, that diversity is going to be super important, and also having that education. And as long as they have the ability to ensure that producing coffee stays at least viable, I think a lot of these people would like to stay in their community. They would like to have their families together. And I think that that's really important to remember, because coming at it from a US perspective, it's like, well, of course, what they want is to make money, so they're gonna go anywhere to make money. But I don't think it's necessarily that they need to have a surplus of that. They just need to make ends meet. And being in a community where that is the value, being with their family is the value. These communities are rural, so having their yard birds, their chickens, that brings them so much joy. And so I think that's also really important that we don't come at them with this idea of you need to be moving up in this hierarchy, but accepting their joy, embracing their joy, and just being grateful that we can contribute and learn from their perspectives. That was a pretty roundabout way.
One more question, because we are right out of time.
Yep, and we got the copies made, approved.
It's very early, it's very early in your history. But is there an idea that this could be replicated in other cities, countries?
Yeah, actually, I just had a meeting with an organization, they are an organization, but an organization in Costa Rica, and they're looking at adapting their model. The biggest key, of course, is gonna be that logistical bridge. And so ensuring that we can maintain and grow, or this model can maintain and grow, from that logistic perspective. Yeah, so we have that, we have the Costa Rican, that we're gonna be trying out probably not this year, but hopefully next year as like a test model. And there was also a group of women in Ecuador. That one we're gonna have to see since the political turmoil is going on there right now, so that's a little unstable. But now the idea is we've got the seed, we've got the test, that we've been able to do it. And so now it's just about growing. Hopefully, yeah.
Thank you, Abby.
No, thank y'all. So we have got, well, I guess 3 copies here. Again, these were brewed with a V60. So, and with a filter, so they're gonna be much lighter. But don't come here expecting like a French press. But, you're gonna find a lot of the natural flavors in it. I did not bring any sugar, I totally forgot. There's sugar over there if you'll need, but I will ask, you try, first sip, don't judge. You never judge your first sip of anything because you might have something going on in your mouth beforehand. So first sip, just let it go, and then second sip, that's where you start to judge. And then if you wanna add sugar, maybe like your third